Crazy game. Let's break it down to each side, starting with Duke. Duke is at the point, and I've been saying this all season, in the ACC, their games are no longer just win, they are win and. And in a generic term, the win and is win and have something happen that makes you more prepared for the postseason. Right? This team is not going to be judged by if they finish in first in the Atlantic Coast Conference. They will be judged by how far they go in the big tournament, right? Conference championships, national championships. So win, which they did, win by double figures, which it didn't look like they would, but they did, and have something you can take away from the game that makes you better, more prepared for the postseason. I'll add this. They did that. And the lesson learned, don't overlook an opponent. I didn't think they would. Dennis, you asked me, hey, do you think they might get caught looking towards UNC? I didn't think they would, right? They had a big emotional game a couple nights ago, or a couple days ago against Wake Forest on the road. The Joel was rocking. They had to fight from behind, won the game. Then they, a couple days later, had NC State. That was last night with UNC up next. I didn't think they would overlook them. Watching the game, I think it's pretty inarguable that they did. And I thought it was interesting, right? Even, what was it, the mascot, the Blue Devil running around with the headband that said UNC warm-up, and I was just like, I don't know. That's not the right way to think about this game, is it?
Didn't it have pack up?
Exactly. NC State probably took it seriously. And you know what? With the whole Common Malawash thing, I guess I could say I would be open to a sickness slowing them down. Some people were saying in the early parts, some guys look sluggish, didn't have their same energy. I guess that's a possibility, but I'm not. If they don't tell me that, I'm not going to assume it, right? If nobody's saying they're sick, I'm not going to give them an excuse for free, right? If you started sluggish, which they did, I'm blaming you unless you tell me otherwise. Jon Scheyer is growing up in front of us as a coach, obviously fully grown human. But as a coach, we're seeing it. Halftime talk, right? Cooper Flagg, quiet in the first half, exploded in the second half. In the postgame, as you can hear right here, Cooper Flagg talked about what Jon Scheyer told him.
Soft, finesse in the first half, as coach would say. I feel like that led to most of our first half troubles with just me being really soft, and it's hard to initiate the offense if I'm not being strong with the ball. So much room to grow.
I love that. I love it. A lot of people think in modern college sports you can't be tough on players. Right, the players are running the program is one of the new buzzwords that are percolating across college basketball. Jon Scheyer telling Cooper Flagg in that first half you were soft, too much finesse, you were soft.
Told the whole team that.
That's true, and that's what they needed to hear because they came out in the second half much more aggressive. It reminded me of, and I've told this story kind of secondhand. There was a podcast that Jason Tatum was on. And Jason Tatum talks about a specific instance early in his Duke career. He was only there a year, as Cooper Flagg will be. And he said he came in at halftime. He thinks in his memory, he had 12 at half. And he came in like high-fiving, like, hey, we had a great half. And Coach K hit him with some form of, if I knew you were going to play that soft, I would have left you in St. Louis. And Jason Tatum was like, eesh. But it ignited something, right? Now it's a story he looks back on fondly. Jon Scheyer is learning, figuring out the social side of coaching in game. We talked about earlier this year how it appears like he's put the personalities better in his recruiting class than he did in the first couple years, where he had all the 5 stars, all the top recruits, but it didn't fit together as like a personality puzzle piece. Seems like he's figured that out. Now he's pulling the right strings. There are certain parts of coaching you can learn, or you can study, I should say. Right? You can study scheme. You can study press break. You can study analytics on where the best shots are. You can study that. You can force that into your brain. I think the social side of coaching just takes time. When to push which buttons, which players to put together, when to let them go on their own, when to reel them in. He's learning that. Telling the team they're soft and then seeing that second half, that's a direct result. Now, I said NC State earned some respect. NC State's not going to roll over, and I appreciate that. Right? And that was part of the DNA in last year's team that I'm not sure we've seen a ton of this year's team, but they showed up in that game on the road against the number 2 team in the country and I mean, shot out of a cannon. right from the beginning of the game, playing with high energy. Bring that energy to every game. That's your challenge, not just on the road at Duke with everybody watching you. If you play, I'll even say it like this. If NC State plays the way they played against Duke last night, they've won their last 6 games in a row, right? It's more than a possession difference, and just about all of those games were one-possession games. You play like you played last night, you win those games. And I'm not even just saying knocking down the shots, because you can't always choose that, right? They did start on fire from 3. They knocked down some really tough shots. But even in the second half, when Duke was making their comeback and Duke was landing punches, State kept fighting back. And they weren't shooting it as well in the second half. A lot of air balls in the second half. A lot of clanked off the side of the backboard in the second half, but they kept fighting back. Again, though, kind of a close-ish game. I know it ended up double figures, but close-ish down the stretch. They weren't able to find the few plays they needed to get over the top. Kevin Keatts, their head coach, talks about the lack of a go-to guy and how that makes their late-game situations tricky.
We don't have a superstar. I thought when things got really tight for Duke, everybody in the entire building knew who they were going to. We've got a bunch of really good players that obviously need each other to play well, and so we don't have that closer in every game. We don't have a Jaquel Joyner, Taquavion Smith, or either DJ Horn or DJ Burns, and so that's one of the reasons why you have to figure out at the end of the games who is playing the best basketball and try to get them involved. That being said, I love our team. But this is one of the groups that, when you say team, we have to be a team to win, because we don't have that guy that can go off for 20 points a game. Obviously, Jon did a great job there in the stretch. There was one person that was going to touch the ball at the Wake Forest game and also here, and it was going to be Cooper. And so we don't have that guy right now.
What's the song? Should I sing? Should we get it weird on Tuesday?
Now. Should you sing? The answer is yes.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? DJ Burns was that for NC State last year.
Mm-hmm.
When things got shaky, when you needed a bucket, nobody was around going Coach, what play do you want? They were going, who has the best angle on throwing it into the big man? And then they got it to that person and got it into the high post or got it into the low post. That's what they did. And then it seemed like last night, right? They're sitting around, tough game, going, who do we go to? Who do we go to? And almost jealous of, we know who they're going to. They don't have to think about it. We got to spend all this effort figuring out who has the best shot. They're going to Cooper and figuring it out from there. And Duke's going, yeah, last year in the ACC tournament, last year in the NCAA tournament, we were sitting around going, who are we going to get it to? Is it Mark Mitchell? Is it McCain? Is it Filipowski? And you were just, everybody knows it's going to Burns. Oh, isn't it funny how the shoe is on the other foot? It is a absolute gift to have a go-to scorer in those moments that wants the ball in their hands and has the ability to create. State doesn't have that, and they're going to be looking to overcome it all season. Duke, obviously, they have the number one guy in the country right now. That's a gift, and they should appreciate it. Just like, I'm not saying NC State didn't appreciate it last year, but it's definitely I don't know, end of the games was much easier. We had the big fella last year. I didn't have to make a whole bunch of decisions. Every decision you make, it's brain power that's not going to something else.